Welcome to Workplace Psychology with Dr. Martha Greidick. I'm Dr. Martha Greidick. This podcast examines a wide variety of work-related issues through the lens of industrial and organizational psychology. And while many of the topics discussed here may be seen as intended for white-collar employees and their employers, in reality, the ideas presented here are applicable across organizations and industries. Additionally, many of the topics discussed here may be applicable outside of the workplace. I encourage you to examine what's presented here, apply what makes sense to you, and simply discard the rest. Sometimes we get caught up in ideas or concepts that are presented to us by others or sold to us by others. And one of those things can be related to work, our purpose for work and our reason for work and what it means for us to be at work, to work for a living. This is one of those things where it can get away from us pretty quickly. So in today's episode, I encourage you to think about your purpose at work, your purpose at the workplace, and why you work. When we examine this concept, we could look at it from a number of different angles. We could look at it from the angle of an employer. What is your purpose as an employee in terms of how the employer sees it? Well, it's pretty basic. You are there to perform tasks or take care of certain responsibilities in exchange for compensation of some sort. But that's just one point of view. There's also your point of view, and your point of view can be much more complex than that of the employer. And this is why it's so important for you to stop and think about your work, your purpose and reason for work, and your purpose and reasons at work while you're at work. Different people would name different reasons for why they work and what their work means to them. But we've been sold this idea that you are supposed to have this dream career where you love going to work and there's a great deal of meaning to work. You've probably heard this saying that says something to the effect of, if you love your work or if you enjoy what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. And while that's a wonderful concept and a wonderful idea, that's not necessarily the reality for most people. So, what does work mean to you? It really depends on you as an individual and your perception. Do you go to work simply because it's a paycheck and that paycheck affords you the ability to live a life? Not only to put a roof over your head and food on the table and maybe take care of your family, but also to have a life beyond that, to have dreams and adventures and fun in your life outside of work. In that aspect, when you look at work in that way, you're less likely to be hung up on living this idealized dream of a job, having this meaningful job that is never stressful and very important and very engaging and pays you a lot of money on top of that, because that's not the easiest thing to achieve or to attain. On the other hand, if you're someone who really enjoys their work and finds meaning in their work, that's great too, because not only is it a means to having a life outside of your workplace, it's also something where there's another layer to your life that you can enjoy and look forward to and be proud of. But it's not necessarily a bad thing if your job is just a paycheck. We really have to get over that idea that we all are supposed to have a dream job that is a dream come true, that has great meaning, that is helping us to save the world. Not every job will be like that, and not everybody will feel like that about their particular job. Now, you can even look at the same job and have multiple interpretations or perceptions of that job. For example, think of some kind of a job where you have to clean up or straighten up or do some kind of maintenance. One person may see it as boring and unchallenging and not requiring much thought, and they may be dreading going to perform this job, dreading going to work every day. But on the other end of that spectrum is a person who can take a look at the same exact job and see it as something where they bring order to chaos, where they are able to clean things up and bring beauty to something that was messy or disorganized, and have that be a gift not only to their own eyes and themselves, but also to those around them, providing others with a better experience. So those are two very different perceptions of the same type of work. Similarly, we can look at a job that maybe requires a lot of education, a lot of responsibility, a lot of things can go wrong. So let's say a surgeon, for example. There's a lot of pressure on a surgeon to not make mistakes, to take care of their patients, to do a good job. One person may thrive on that. They may love the challenge. They may love the continued engagement in terms of their intellect. They may take pride in being able to do such a complicated and important job well, whereas another person may see that as their personal nightmare. They don't want that kind of liability, and they would never want that kind of a job. So again, same job, but different ways of looking at it depending on who you ask, who's looking at it, whose lens we're looking at this job through. So this is why it's so important to take a look at your job and what it means to you, because if you are not honest with yourself, and if you're not truly reviewing where you are and where you want to be in terms of your job and the responsibilities that you have and the tasks that you have and how you spend your days, you may be unhappy. And you weren't put on this earth to be unhappy. That's something that I always stress to people. You are not put on this earth to be miserable. So it could be a matter of changing your perspective of what your job means in the grand scheme of your life. And maybe if you are currently unhappy with your job situation because you bought into this idea that you're supposed to have this dream job and you don't. But in reality, it's a job that provides for you and maybe your family if you have a family, and also allows you to pursue your dreams outside of work, then there's absolutely no reason to be unhappy with that job. And a shift in your perception, your perspective, may be just what you need to help you have a fresh perspective, fresh look at your current job situation. That's not to say that there aren't people out there who will review their current job situation and decide that they would rather seek out a different kind of job where they feel more fulfilled, where they feel like they're making a bigger difference than they currently are, and they find themselves unable to be inspired by the job that they do. And that's part of reality, and that's up to them whether or not they want to pursue a different career or a different employer. But for the most part, I would advise that you start with your current job and your perception of it, your perception of your time spent there. Is it something that you're enjoying? And if you're not, Is it truly because there's a reason to not enjoy it? Or is it simply because you bought into this idea that everybody's supposed to have a dream job? In today's day and age where everybody's on social media and so many people are trying to portray these perfect lives, perfect jobs, perfect families, perfect bodies, it's so easy to get caught up in unrealistic expectations. And if your life doesn't mirror what you're seeing others present on social media, for example, it's easy to feel less than, where in reality, you have no reason to feel that way. So today, I want everybody to be encouraged to take a look at their own job situation. What are you getting out of your job? What could you be getting out of your job? And is this a matter of perception, where perception is holding back your happiness and everyday contentment? Or is it a bigger issue that you need to address? As this episode comes to an end, let's review what was discussed. Most people have jobs that have responsibilities and tasks associated with them, and there are days when you may enjoy your job more than other days. But the bottom line is that the grand scheme of things should include a job where either you're okay with being there or even enjoy it, or at the very least you are okay with what that job means to you in your life outside of the workplace. Many have been led to believe that we're all supposed to have dream jobs that are effortless and fantastic. But the reality is that not everybody's jobs are like that. Not everybody's job experience is like that. And some jobs are much more mundane than others. The bottom line is perception of what your job is and what it means to you. Your job does not have to be constant excitement and changing the world and top meaning all the time. It could be boring. It could be nothing more than a paycheck or a means to an end that then allows you to pursue your dreams, to go on your journeys outside of the workplace. So the takeaway is that a dream job is great if you have it, but not everybody's going to have a dream job, and that's okay. And on top of that, perception plays a big role. So it's important that everybody reviews their perception about their current job to see if they are unhappy unnecessarily. As this week comes to an end, I encourage you to take a look at your own job and your own job situation. Are you caught up in this idea that you are supposed to have this magnificent dream job? And if you do, that's wonderful. That's absolutely wonderful, because not many people can say that. But if you don't, and if you feel unhappy about your job, it may not be so bad where you need to look for another job. It may be a couple of simple adjustments, shifts in perception. One, letting go of this idea that we're all supposed to have a dream job. But two, also taking a different look or different perspective at the current job that you have. Maybe there's more abilities or more potential to feel rewarded in that job than you have given an opportunity to that job thus far. So maybe it's a matter of looking at it through a different lens. And if things truly are such that you're not happy and you can't shift your perception to be okay with the job that you have, and instead of relying on your job to fulfill your dreams, focus on having dreams outside of work, then you can always look for another job. But that's fairly drastic, and I encourage you to first review your own job situation for what it truly is, what it truly means, your responsibilities and tasks, what they mean to you, and what they should and shouldn't mean to you. You have an entire life outside of the workplace. Don't forget that. So while it's nice to be happy at work, some of that happiness, I would even say most of that happiness, goes back to you, or depends on you, your perception and your interpretation of your daily experience. So I encourage you to take a look at your own job and job experiences and see how you can make the best of it. For those of you who are experiencing this podcast in an audio-only version, I encourage you to check out my YouTube channel where you can find the video version of this podcast. The link for that is in the description below. In addition to the video version of the podcast, my YouTube channel also contains videos that focus on stress management, so I encourage you to check that out. Thank you for joining me today. Please subscribe to this podcast. I look forward to seeing you here again next time. Until then, I wish you joy and well-being.